with the 4 pillars of sales messaging that drives growth. And first of all, I want to introduce to you the whole team here. As I said, my name's Craig Klein. I'm the CEO and founder of Sales Nexus, and my background's in sales. I've been hiring and training salespeople here in the energy business in Houston and here at Sales Nexus for over 18 years in developing lead generation and business development campaigns. And we're joined today by our presenter, Michael Halper, the CEO of Launchpad Solutions. Welcome, Michael.
Hi, Craig. Hello, everybody.
And Michael's also the author of The Cold Calling Equation, which is a great book. I recommend you all go to his site and get a copy of that. I think it's available on Amazon too, right, Michael?
Yes.
Yeah, and then also Michael is the CEO also of SalesScripter.com, which we're going to be talking about a little bit later. And we're also joined by Forrest Cassidy, the CEO of LeadFerret. Welcome, Forrest.
Thanks, Craig. Thanks for having me, and thanks to all of our attendees for taking some time out of their day today. Well worth it, I'm sure.
Yeah, and appreciate your support with the webinar today. Just for everybody that doesn't know already, LeadFerret.com is a site you can go to and search for and download B2B contacts to target with your marketing and selling efforts, including the email addresses, and they're free. So definitely check those out. And just as a heads up for you guys and also for Forrest, we're going to, towards the end of Michael's presentation, he's going to talk a little bit more about LeadFerret in detail. So hang around for that. And so for everybody who has not been able to join us for previous webinars, this is our 6th webinar. Actually, this one was sort of added by popular demand. We had originally scheduled these 5 webinars that you see here, starting on January 16th with the Magic 5 of content-based email marketing that drives sales. And you see we've covered creating a sales process based on the customer's pain, qualifying sales leads, managing a sales process and managing a sales pipeline, creating a 360-degree view of the customer relationship. And today, Michael's going to be focusing on effective sales messaging and also going to feature a little bit the sales scripter. So all of these webinars are now recorded and available on our website for you to watch. So if you missed any of them, you can go back and reference those at any time. And it's absolutely free, so go for it. So with that, Michael, I'll turn it over to you and let you take over.
Thanks, Craig. Hello, everybody. Yeah, the topic today is the pillars of effective sales messaging, and there's actually 6 pillars. So we've added 2 pillars since we announced this training module. So that being said, we got a lot of material to cover. And by the way, we have a training module for each of these by themselves. In fact, we've already gone through 2 of them as part of this 5 series. We've gone through Qualify and Pain. If you attended those, we're not going to go into too much detail, so don't worry about the repetition too much. We don't have time. We're just going to kind of skim the surface on all of these. So if you have more interest, you can either check out the Qualify and Pain by going to Sales Nexus and viewing the recordings, or I do have training outside of this that has modules for each of these. They're about an hour long for each. But we're going to, so the pillars that we can build our sales messaging on, there's value, qualify, pain, objections, interest, and credibility. There's messaging that we need to have or we can develop in each of these areas. And when we have those in place, we can build on top of those pillars an effective sales messaging strategy. And what we mean by sales messaging is what you are communicating to your prospects. And this could be when you're on a cold call, a prospecting call. When you're during an introduction, that introduction could be over the phone, or it could be maybe at a networking event. Could be how you communicate in your messaging in an email, maybe a one-to-one sales email, or it could be a mass email, marketing email. This messaging can impact how you communicate in presentations and whatnot. And on your website, sales and marketing are, work closely aligned. This is more your sales messaging, but it could impact your marketing messaging. So I'm going to roll through those pillars one at a time, and we're going to start with value. And what is value? Value is basically how you help your clients. We as salespeople, we can often fall into the rut of talking about our products, talking about our services and what they do. We need to get above that and talk about how those help our prospects, how those help our clients. That is where we get to a true level of sales effectiveness. And what value is basically an intangible attribute that transfers from you to your clients. And to take a step back to kind of help you get your hands around what value is, and is that you offer value every day at a personal level when you're interacting with other people. Hey Craig, we're getting some background. I don't know if you can throw yourself on mute. Thanks. At a personal level, you deliver value to, let's say you're interacting with someone and you make them laugh. You've just delivered value to them, and you can't get your hands around that, but by you making their day brighter, or by you making the conversation more entertaining, you're delivering value. When you make someone's day easier, when you're a good listener to somebody, you're not giving them anything, you're just being there, and the fact that they can talk to you, you're delivering value. So it's important to get your hands around that, because you offer that same type of value, or value in a similar way, to your prospects and to your clients. When you help them to make more money, to save money, to be able, when you help your clients to be able to access valuable information, like email addresses from LeadFerret, valuable information, there's value in that, and what those email addresses allow you to do. So when you help someone to save time, when you help a prospect to automate manual processes, and then they have available time to be more strategic. So the important thing is your value is not your product, it's what your product helps your clients to do or achieve. And so we teach that there's 3 levels of value, and at the lowest level you have technical value. And this is, don't get misled to think around technology, this is just at the lowest level around processes or systems, which could be technology, but it doesn't have to be. And it could be around people and employees. But when you drive improvements at the lowest level through doing things like automating manual processes, improving performance of systems, or performance of people. Craig helps you to improve the performance of your salespeople. That's technical value that you will realize. And when you realize that technical value, that works its way up to be realized in the area of business value, such as revenue and cost. So when Craig helps you to make your salespeople more perform better, that creates more sales revenue and more profitability, and that's business value. And when you realize both technical and business value, those both combine to work their way up to impact your prospects at a personal level. Of course, your prospects care about their company, whether they own it or they're a senior manager working there for years. They probably have a tremendous amount of pride in wear the polo shirt with the company logo on the side. They care a lot, but they also care about themselves. And if not, they might. We care about ourselves probably more than anything, and our families. And that your families are applied at the personal level as well, because that's where you care about your income and your career and your workload. And so when you deliver value, it'll typically work its way up to impact people in the area of bonuses, commissions, recognition, promotions, and whatnot. So that's value. Well, how do you know what your value is? Well, here's a matrix that you can use to figure it out. And I have an example here, and I've inserted a feature. The feature is auto inventory replenishment, by the way. I made up all of these details. I've never sold this. I wanted to pick something that I've never sold, or it's pretty much fictional. But auto inventory replenishment, what is the function of that? Well, that feature automatically submits orders to vendors based on inventory levels. Okay, well that sounds pretty cool. What does that mean at a technical level? Well, that helps us to decrease the time that it takes to place orders. Well, if we decrease time on ordering, what does that mean at a business standpoint? Well, we currently have managers that walk around the store every night doing orders, and we can eliminate that. So that decreases our need for as much management, staffing time, and labor costs. Okay, well that's pretty cool. Well, what does that mean to me as a VP of operations? Well, I'm currently having to review all orders since they're all manual today, and I can stop doing that on the weekends, which means I can spend more time with my wife and kids. Well, that's pretty great. So what we just did there is we started with a product or a feature, and we mapped out the value of that offers. If we only sell one thing, we've just identified our core value that we have to offer. It's likely that you sell more than one product or your product has more than one feature. So we can sort of repeat that, for our other products or features, and then we get to a bunch of really great data. This might be too much information for us to share like in a brief conversation with a prospect. So then we can go and we can kind of summarize these different columns of data to get to our core value. And so the core value for this demonstration I came up with, our core product is inventory management software. It helps companies to manage inventory levels and orders, and that leads to improving the ability to manage inventory, decreases inventory and labor costs, and improves our prospects' compensation potential. So that's the value that I have to offer. By the way, when we show you SalesScripter, SalesScripter provides you a wizard that to where you can get through, you can identify all those nuggets as well. And then actually, let me back up before I go on. When you have these core value nugget pieces of information, you can plug these into values. You can create value statements with them, which basically say, we help businesses to improve their ability to manage inventory levels. That's a value statement. So we provide, SalesScripter provides templates, which when you identify the value you offer, it'll be plugged into a long list of value statements, and you can pick from a bunch of them to the ones that fit best. Got to keep moving because we have a lot of information to cover. But the next pillar is qualifying. So qualifying is really assessing the prospect in two key areas. One is how well they fit with what you have to offer, and two, how likely is that prospect to purchase from you. Now, qualifying is kind of a procedural step in your sales thoroughness, and we're here to talk about messaging. But qualifying is really the questions that you need to be asking your prospect. And your messaging is not just what you say, but your messaging is also what you ask. In fact, in early sales cycle stages, you should be asking more questions than you are talking about yourself and talking about your great products that you have to offer. So a very big part of your sales messaging is your qualification questions. So we here at SalesScripter, we use a two-step qualifying process. We start with soft qualifying, which is assessing, really, this is sort of light qualifying, and this is done when we first talk to a prospect. So we're really figuring out, does it make sense for us to talk at all? Does it make sense for us to meet and maybe put time on each other's calendar? So you're going to ask questions like, what are you using today? How long have you been using it? How's it working for you? Are you in a contract? Those are soft qualifying questions. We definitely want to do hard qualifying, which is, well, what's your level? What's your role in the organization? What's the decision-making process? Has this project been budgeted? What's the budget range that you're trying to stay within? What happens if you don't make a purchase? Is there a time when this purchase needs to be made by? Those are really good questions, and those need to be asked. You don't want to ask those questions when you first talk to a prospect. You want to ask those really when you have your first meeting or first call. So that's what we call hard qualifying. It should definitely be part of your sales messaging. And the way that we structure our logic around qualifying is that we try to measure prospects in 4 key areas. The need to purchase, which is how bad they really need what you have. Is it more of a want, or is it really a need? The authority to purchase, is your prospect that you're dealing with, are they the person that says yes and signs the contract? The ability to purchase from a funding standpoint, and the intent to purchase. Does the prospect genuinely intend to purchase and intend to purchase from you? We dive into all of that in more detail in our qualifying module, but that's maybe as deep as we can go here. So the next pillar is pain. And pain is basically what is not working well for the prospect or could be working better. And when you're selling, if things are okay, basically pain is really measuring, are things great, good, okay, or could be better. And if things are great or good, there's not a lot of pain. And if there's not a lot of pain, it could be hard for the prospect to end up spending money with you. Not to say that the prospect won't take meetings from you. You could be a super salesperson, and even though the prospect doesn't need what you have, you might have been so savvy that you got meetings and you showed a demonstration, and the prospect really liked all your fancy features. Your prospect liked all the fancy features of your software, but they don't have any pain around their current system. So what does that mean? That means that when it comes time for them to look at your agreement and to make a purchase and invest money and make a commitment to move forward, they might not do that because there's no pain. So part of your messaging should be around identifying if there is pain or communicating where your prospects commonly have pain to get the prospect's attention. So just like value, there's 3 levels of pain, and the levels are aligned with the levels of value. We have technical pain at the lowest level, again, processes, systems, and people. And these are areas where things are slow, broken, manual processes, poor system or employee performance, lack of reliability. And when there's technical pain, that'll usually work its way up to impact your prospect at the business level in the area of revenue, costs, a pain that Craig resolves with Sales Nexus is that salespeople might have leads that are falling through the cracks and aren't getting effectively worked and aren't effectively being tracked. Well, what does that mean? That means missed opportunities, and those missed opportunities mean decreased sales revenue, decreased profitability. So those technical pains work their way up to be business pains. And again, they work their way up to cause personal pains. That VP of sales, all those missed sales opportunities could be the difference between that VP of sales hitting her annual quota. If she misses her quota, then she might be out of a job. That's something that's pretty painful and hits you at a personal level. So pain isn't the easiest thing to uncover, especially when you're doing prospecting, but because sometimes people don't want to share with you what's not working well. But there are some things you can do to try to uncover pain. These 4 things are very common, very reasonable things for you to implement, and that will help you to get pain going in conversations that you're having with prospects. You can ask rating questions. So you could always ask a prospect, well, how do you feel about the current level of service from your provider today? And that's a decent question that might get some feedback. But you can add to the end of that on a scale from 1 to 10. So how do you feel about your current provider on a scale from 1 to 10? And the value in maybe asking rating questions is that your prospect might say, if you didn't have the rating on there, they might say, well, we're doing pretty good. So then you might not get a lot of information there. It sounds like they're good, no pain. But then if you say, well, how do you feel about your current provider on a scale from 1 to 10, they might say 8. Okay? And if they say 8, well, that means there might not be a lot of pain. But what you can do is you can ask, okay, well, just out of curiosity, do you mind if I ask why you gave the rating of 8 and not a 10? What could be changed to get you to a 10? And they might divulge some pain. They might say, oh, well, they're very slow to return our calls and the customer service isn't great. Okay, well, you just found out some pain. The way that we find is very one of the most powerful ways to uncover pain is to give pain examples. So if you know that your prospects are dealing with not able to generate leads and sales leads are falling through the cracks, aren't being effectively worked, those are common pain examples that you help to resolve. Then what you can do is you can share those pain examples with your prospects. You could do this a couple ways. One is in a conversation. When you're talking to them, instead of saying, well, how's everything going? Oh, it's going good? Okay, well, I'll call you in 6 months. You could say, well, well, when I talk with other VPs of sales, they say that that they sometimes aren't generating the number of leads that they need to fill the pipeline. and that the leads that they are generating sometimes fall through the cracks. Can you relate to either of those, or which one of those is impacting you the most? So what I did there is I just gave some examples, and at which point the prospect may say, no, we don't have either of those, and I could give a couple more examples, or they might say, well, we have a little bit of that one but not so much of the other, and then we just uncovered pain.
Hey, Michael, real quick, I just wanted to interject for everybody that's been part of the earlier webinars. You'll remember that the pain is where we started with this in creating the content-based emails, based on these pains. And I just wanted to point out these examples that you're given are all great ways, great subject lines, and great calls to action in your emails.
Yep. I was planning on mentioning that there. Yep. So I just mentioned 2 pain points, right? We could create an email for having trouble with sales leads falling through the cracks. That's the subject line, and we have a content piece there. We shoot that out via email. Well, and we send that out to 1,000 sales managers. The people who click on that are telling us, well, I kind of have problems with sales falling through the cracks. So using a system like Sales Nexus to shoot that out and then track the clicks, that's a good way to use pain, and use pain as part of your sales messaging strategy. Wish list questions, those are questions where you might ask a prospect if you could change anything on your current system, what would you change, what would you add? That might get you to some pain. And disqualifying, this is a whole topic in itself, but if you're talking to a prospect and they're like, we're good, and your last-ditch effort could be to disqualify them, which is to kind of push them away and kind of try to close the door. So this is you saying, well, it sounds like you guys are doing pretty good, so I don't know if it makes sense for us to really put a meeting on the calendar, and at which point your prospect is either going to say, yeah, we're doing pretty good, and the door closes, which if there's no pain, that's good, or the prospect might challenge you to say, well, but you didn't ask me about our reporting, and we're not able to get really good reporting on what we're sending out, so, and then you keep the conversation going, you just found some pain. So, and Craig, just let me know if there's any questions, but moving on to the next pillar, objections. So objections is kind of your prospects' messaging, right? The objections are what your prospects say to you, and they'll use these as like mini stop signs, especially if you're cold calling or prospecting. They'll throw objections at you to try to slow calls down or end calls. So objections are really their messaging, but for every objection you can have a response, and that's part of your sales messaging. If you don't have if you're not prepared for the common objections that you're running into, it's like you're an athlete and you're going into the game unprepared, because you're guaranteed to run up against objections all the time. And so here are some common objections. Some of these may look familiar to you. I'm busy right now. Who are you with? What is this in regards to? What is this in regards to? That if you're doing any outbound cold calling, prospecting calls, what is this in regards to is one that you're going to hear all the time. And gatekeepers love this one because this is one where they're trying to get you to say something that makes you look like a salesperson so that they can say, we're not interested, or go into our vendor mailbox or whatever. And so if you directly answer the question, what is this in regards to, you will answer with a response of something like, well, I'm calling to schedule a meeting and see if you have any needs and what we have to offer, and that's just going to not get you anywhere. So we have some tactics on how to respond to that. I'll talk about that on the next slide. I'm not interested. Just send me some information. One that you got to be prepared for, because prospects love this one. They get rid of you really quickly. Just send me some information, and they can do it without looking like a jerk. And the worst thing about this one is that not only does it get you off the phone, but then you might end up spending 15 minutes crafting an email that you're incredibly proud of, and you put a bunch of attachments and you send it over, and they have zero intent on reading it, and so you just wasted 15 minutes. we already use somebody. We're not looking at making a change right now. We do not have budget time, budget money to spend. So those are some objections. If you if you just simply have a canned response for each of those, you'll immediately improve your results. They might not work every time, but over a large sample of calls, they will having a response will help. Well, I guess it depends on your response, but having a response is better than not having any response. So let's talk about what kind of responses you can work on. So here are 3 objection handling options. The first is to comply. So to comply is basically to give in. Just send me some information. Okay, sure, have a nice day, and then you go send them information. To overcome is to try to challenge the objection and try to change their mind. So an example of this is a prospect says, I'm not interested, and you go, oh, but you know, I didn't tell you that we have a lifetime warranty. You know, don't you want a lifetime warranty? So you're basically trying to sell more and trying to overcome the fact that they're not interested. It's my philosophy that when you're prospecting is not a time to try to overcome objections, because you might be on the phone, or you're probably majority of the time you're on the phone, and you just don't have the attention and time to try to overcome an objection. To overcome something is to change someone's mind, and that takes a lot of time and attention, and you just don't have that especially if you're on a cold call. You have about 2 to 5 minutes to work with if you're on a cold call. If you are in a meeting with a prospect and they have an objection, you might want to either try to overcome it or at least talk about it, because if it's a genuine objection that you're not going to be able to deal with, you might want to get it out there, and if it's something you can't resolve, and you might want to maybe disqualify the prospect to say, well, we don't have a lifetime warranty, and that's just something we don't simply offer. Do you mind if I ask why you're asking for that? Is there we do have a better quality than our competition, so you can try to deal with it head on. Do that in a meeting when you have somebody's attention, you have time on their calendar. But the third option is to redirect. And what this basically is to sort of segue. You're giving me objection, and I'm going to kind of segue and redirect into a new but maybe a related area. So I'm not just completely changing the subject. So an example of this is if a prospect says, if I said something like, I'm with Sales Nexus, and they say I'm not interested, instead of saying, oh, well, but do you have visibility? Are you able to see are you able to do email campaigns through your CRM? That's trying to overcome the fact that they're not interested. So a redirect would be to say, oh, okay, I understand. Well, let me ask you, what are you using today for email marketing? And they might say, oh, I'm using Constant Contact. And I say, oh, okay, so that's separate from your current CRM. And they say, yeah, I have CRM, and then I have email marketing in a separate system. Oh, okay. Well, and then there's lots of different directions I can continue to go with that conversation. But what you notice there is that we're not talking anymore about the fact that they're not interested. We're talking about their environment, and I'm gathering some really great data. I just uncovered some pain, because they have 2 separate systems. And so now if they go back to the fact that they're not interested, I actually maybe could overcome that they're not interested now because I have some pain. But anyways, as you can see, I'm redirecting, and that's a way to deal. That's one of the objection handling options. We actually recommend when you're cold calling and prospecting to always redirect the objections that you run into.
Hey, Michael, real quick before you jump to the next topic here, I think you hit a nerve because there's a bunch of people that jumped in when you talked about what is this in regards to, asking, can you provide some specific examples of how to respond to that?
Sure. So let's see. I have an example here. Oh, okay. So this slide kind of has a way to respond, but not in too much detail. Sure, I'll dig into that. Well, let me talk about this slide, and I'll come back to that, which is you'll see on this image here is what we call an objections map, and it's basically a matrix, right? So on one column you have all the objections that you'll run into, and on the right you have the responses that you feel like, and I would say script out the responses that have the best chance of keeping the call going. That's your goal. Not necessarily to resolve the objection, but to keep the call going if you're on a call versus a meeting. So list out the objections and then list out the responses and use this as a tool. By the way, we're going to talk about SalesScripter here in a minute. SalesScripter will build an objections map for you. And SalesScripter has a what's this call in regards to built in to the objections map, and if you go through SalesScripter, you'll get a bunch of responses for how to respond to that. But the standard response that we have is to respond with your value statement. So if you go through SalesScripter, it's going to produce a value statement, and then that's how we respond to what's this in regards to. So let me give you an example. So a value statement for SalesScripter is we help sales professionals figure out how to best communicate with prospects. Okay, so let's say I'm calling a company and the gatekeeper says, well, what's this in regards to? Instead of saying, well, I want to schedule a meeting with your VP sales to talk about what they're doing for sales messaging, I'm going to say, I'm just going to say, well, let's say he says, well, what's this in regards to? I'm just going to respond, okay, well, the reason why I'm calling is we help VPs of sales to develop and improve their sales messaging, period. And I'll just sit there. And the gatekeeper will not, it's not going to tell them exactly, oh, I must let this person in, but it's not going to tell them, it's not going to tell them to shut me out either. It's not going to tell them that it might throw them off because the answer I'm giving them is all about benefits. We help VPs of sales to blank value statement. And the value statement is also something that's hard to object to because, hang on, let me take a drink. If you use a response that is product-based, meaning the reason why I'm calling is I have a sales scripting software that everybody needs, then someone can say, oh, I'm not interested, or we don't need it, right? But when we talk about value, it's hard for someone to say, well, we don't want that. You know, we help businesses to improve the number of leads. Oh, we don't want leads. We don't want to improve leads. You know, I mean, it almost presents something that they would look silly trying to respond to. Craig, any other questions on that?
No, that's great. There was a bunch of people even after
right,
you started asking that question that really chimed in. So obviously that's a hot topic.
Okay. So the next pillar is building interest. And, of course, your sales messaging, well, first of all, some salespeople think that their product is what it is, and prospects will either need it and want it or they won't. But there's a lot you can do in your sales messaging to build interest. And I'll just kind of read through these points pretty quickly. But at a high level, of course, this is a no-brainer. You can include some product or service details that this is what it is and this is what it does. For example, Sales Nexus is a CRM and a email marketing in one system. Well, that's a detail that is around the product or service that will, you know, communicate what it is. So at some point, even if you're talking a lot about value, when you need to communicate what your product is and what it does at some point. But we can go deeper than that. And so some ways that we can build interest is we can connect prospect pain with the value that we have to offer. So if we are just using canned messaging, we could talk in basically the pain that most prospects have versus the value that we have to offer. Or you can get really powerful if you're on a cold call and you've identified prospect pain, and you connect that directly in an explanation with how you resolve that through the value that you offer. That will trigger interest. Communicating return on investment. Okay, so your product costs X dollars. Well, what is the return on X dollars? When will the product pay you back? What's the payback period? If it costs $100,000, when will I get my 100 grand back? Or what's the multiple that I'll get in 3 years or whatever? So explain differentiation. So how are you different? If you don't know how you're different, you either need to do some soul searching to figure out how you're different, or you need to make some changes to create a difference. Because and needless to say, you need to communicate how you're different to build interest. share a client story. There's nothing more powerful than sharing a story. So, you know, you can talk all day about my product does this and it does that, but there's nothing more powerful than saying, company XYZ came to us and they had this challenge, and by using our service, product, whatever, they were able to achieve this, and it led to these results. Very powerful for building interest. You could paint a picture of a future state. So here's an example. So I provide, well, the sales scripter. Let's talk about my sales training, right? So if you're selling, do you want to do you want to hit your sales quota and exceed it next year? Yes, of course. Are you currently on path? No, I'm not. Well, if you go through my sales, most people that go through my sales training program usually meet or exceed their sales targets for the year that they're currently in, and so I'm just painting a picture of what is able to be achieved. So that's a little bit different than telling a client story. You're painting a picture of a future state that prospect could have if they use or consume your products. Discussing the impacts of doing nothing. You know, an example I use a lot here is like flood insurance. You know, that's something that maybe an insurance might talk to a homeowner and they could possibly skip and do without, but the insurance salesperson might talk about what could happen if there's a bad storm, how often there's freak storms, and then what cost they would have to pay if there was a storm. You know, with your current property, if there is a storm, a flood, you could be out 50 to 100K in damages, and you'd have to pay that out of pocket. Are you in a position where you could pay that? So those are the impacts of doing nothing. And then the last point is sharing company facts. So what's interesting here is company facts are like, we've been in business for 30 years, we don't use any offshore resources, we won awards for customer service. These are the bragging points, right? So there's a place for those, and those help to build interest for sure, and you should share those. We actually have those at the bottom of the list, and we think that's kind of where they belong. And what's interesting is a lot of people usually have that tactic at the top of the list. I guess if you have nothing else, then put it at the top of the list. But if you can develop these other things, those are much more powerful. Okay, and need to move quickly on this one, but credibility. So credibility is, you know, there's two things about credibility. One is when you're doing prospecting, gatekeepers will be screening you to try to figure out whether you're a friend or a foe. A friend would be someone that is already doing business with the company or is okay for them to let in. A foe would be a salesperson trying to get an appointment. So if you establish credibility, you can often get meetings. This can help you to close deals. So some ways to establish credibility is name dropping. So if you're talking to a gatekeeper or if you're talking to a target prospect, name drop other people that you've spoken to. Oh, we met with Matt in accounting and had a meeting with him, and now we're reaching out to you. Well, that just established you as not so much of an outsider. You might be saying, well, what if we haven't talked to Matt in accounting? Well, what we could do is we could name drop Matt in the context of saying we're planning on meeting with Matt at some point in accounting, and we wanted to meet with you first, or we want to meet with a VP of HR first. Can you point us in the right direction? So we haven't even talked to Matt. We just expressed that we're planning on meeting with Matt, and there's nothing really unethical about that because we probably are planning on meeting with Matt. I mean, it's not a lie. It's just when it rolls off the tongue, it gives the impression that you may even have a meeting on the calendar with Matt. But you're not saying that you have a meeting on the calendar with Matt. Anyway, so
Michael, this is Forrest. Sorry, I couldn't help but chime in there because that's actually a practice that our sales team has used for years. It's like really one of the core components of our sales tactic, and I know you're trying to get through a lot in a short amount of time, so I won't go into great detail. But what we actually use that as specifically as a tactic to open doors, and what we do is the first person we're able to make contact with at a company, we'll simply ask, who handles X within your company? Who would I talk to about Y? Whether it's your sales training or direct marketing or marketing or sales or whatever you would say. And as soon as they say, oh, you'd want to talk to so-and-so, say you'd want to talk to Susan Smith. So then when we go and talk to Susan Smith, the first thing we say is, I was just speaking with Max, and he thought it would be a good idea that I speak with you about your direct marketing. And we find that works extremely well. And if the first person, say that I called Max, says, oh, I'm the person that you would talk to about that, then you've already automatically qualified them. So by asking that question up front, you either automatically qualify them or you get a sort of soft intro to somebody else. And oftentimes that soft intro, the second person can really think is much stronger than it is, and you don't lie, but you don't lead them to believe that it's any weaker than they might think either.
Great stuff. Good stuff. So I'll kind of go through these last points really quickly. Storytelling, we talked about that on interest, talking about building interest. Same thing applies with credibility, telling stories about clients. Lack of availability, so sometimes when you're trying to schedule meetings, whether the lack of availability for your time or for your products can say a lot for your credibility, right? So if your product is out of stock, then your prospect might think that you have a good product. If you're not available to meet very easily, then your company must be doing well. Lack of neediness. It's okay to say, I want to do business with you, and it would really be great things for us to secure you as a client, but that's something different than like you desperately needing their business, and there's ways to communicate lack of neediness. And a picture of consensus, it can really, if you can paint a picture that everybody's kind of, buying your product and switching over to you, without lying, but I mean, if you can throw some data that makes that picture that there's a consensus, sort of a herd mentality, then it makes people think that you're okay, and it establishes your credibility. Those are the 6 pillars. Got to keep moving.
Hey,
but as you can
Michael,
see,
real quick, sorry, just real quick, a couple questions came in. There's a couple people asking, would you recommend using this technique that you and Forrest are discussing from the standpoint of I connected with somebody on LinkedIn? So you're talking to the gatekeeper and you say, well, I've connected with Bob on LinkedIn and I was calling to set an appointment with him.
It wouldn't hurt. I think that it's better than not doing anything, right? So instead of just saying, can you connect me with Bob, it establishes a little bit of familiarity. It's better than nothing. The gatekeeper still might say, oh, well, if the gatekeeper's savvy, he or she may know that anybody can connect, but it does establish a connection. So I think that's good.
I might recommend not just keeping it more vague and just saying I've had some correspondence with, or I've connected with Bob. Don't say LinkedIn, because then it's a little more, it's too clear for the gatekeeper, and we want to leave it open for them to assume that the connection is stronger than it is.
I like that.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say to the same exact thing that you said initially, but just leave out the word LinkedIn. So just I connected with Bob the other day.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, speaking of LinkedIn and name dropping, LeadFerret is a great place to go to get some of those names. When you're doing research on who to call, you can actually go to LeadFerret and do some searches and get contact info for free. You only have to pay and provide points when you actually download contacts. So when you're developing your messaging, when you figure out the pain that you resolve, the value that you offer, the name drops that you want to use, the people that you want to connect with, one of the first places that you can go is LeadFerret. Plug that data in, get the contacts you need, get a mass list, put in all the key details to get a really tight, focused list. You can do that at LeadFerret.
Yeah, Forrest, I don't know, maybe you guys have tried this, but couldn't you I could go into LeadFerret, look up a company, and pull up a list of all their executives And so whenever I get on the phone with the gatekeeper, I could just say something like, well, I'm trying to coordinate a meeting between, Sam Johnson and Sally Smith, and just list them all off, right? And pretty soon the gatekeeper's going, whoa, this guy knows everybody. I better not get in their way.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of tactics that we use just like that, and we know a lot of our users do as well. But, while we're mentioning that, I would also say that there's another tactic that people tend to fall into a little more quickly, especially when I've heard our own people, when they're using LeadFerret, fall into this tactic, which is, let's say you have 4 names, and you start at the top and you say, oh, is Joe Smith there? And they say, no, he's in a meeting right now. Sorry, would you like his voicemail? You go, oh, well, how about Susie James? Is she there? As soon as you start to do that, then they realize that you're just basically cold calling into the company as soon as you start to go down the list of names. So that can work for you, and it can work against you. If you position it more like you mentioned, Craig, that can definitely work for you. If you just start going name after name after name, these people have heard, the receptionists at companies, if they've been there a little while, have heard it all before, and they'll know exactly what you're up to.
Yeah, really good point.
So we've got a few minutes left. I tell you what I'm going to do is I'll jump over to SalesScripter. We may go over, so in case we lose anybody at the top of the hour, I want to just direct you to where you can get some more information, and then we'll roll over to SalesScripter and then probably go beyond the hour. We've flown through a lot of information here. If you think this is helpful stuff, you could get more of this in the cold calling equation. There's basically a chapter for each of these pillars. There's actually about 20 chapters, and each chapter deals with something different. So the other place that you can go, or the other resource that you have, is I actually have a 10-week web-based prospecting training that there's a module for each of these, and you can sign up for that under SalesScripter. There's the price is $3.99 for the entire program, and by being an attendee here, we're offering a 50% discount code of success. So if you like this, you want more, that's a really easy way to get some more information. Pretty economical, comes out to about $20 for each hour-long training session. You can go to SalesScripter. Our beta version is currently at no cost. You can sign up today, and we will always have a light product that's at no cost, but we are probably a month or so away from having a more polished pay version. And if you have any questions, you can send us an email at info@salescripter.com. Craig, you want to go through these slides and the end slides, and then we'll flip over to SalesScripter and run over the hour?
Yeah, sure. We can do this real quick. I just wanted to let everybody know you can access all of these webinars in the recorded form and also the slides at salesnexus.com/resources/webinars, and you'll see them all listed off there. Also, you'll all be getting an email tomorrow that will have a link to today's webinar in the recorded form and the slides, as well as to the scripter and everything that Michael mentioned. Many of you who are SalesNexus customers who may be in a free trial of SalesNexus currently are probably familiar with our Quick Start programs. And as a part of the upcoming kickoff or release of the SalesScripter, what we're doing is offering a discount. If you're interested in taking advantage of our Quick Start programs to help you set up SalesNexus with customized fields and email templates and campaigns and so on, we'll knock $250 off of the cost of that Quick Start program if you go to SalesScripter and complete it first. So that's kind of a win-win. And then also, most of you know that you can start a free trial of SalesNexus anytime. And what's most important is that not only can you load in your own contacts that you already have from Outlook or from some other CRM or something, but you can also, as a part of your free trial with SalesNexus, go create a free account on LeadFerret and download 500 contacts with their email addresses right into Sales Nexus. Start creating templates and campaigns and sending out emails. You can actually send out up to 50,000 emails per month and start generating leads and sales. And that's in the first 30 days without spending a dime. So definitely go to salesnexus.com and get your free trial started, and get over to leadferret.com and start your free account there.
And if you continue, Craig, with Sales Nexus, don't forget that if you continue with your Sales Nexus account after the first 30-day trial, you continue to get 500 contacts, which you can transfer over in just a few clicks using our API that we've built in from LeadFerret. So it's not just the first month; it's actually every single month. The idea is it's a flow. It's a never-ending flow of leads.
It's a great point. I'm glad you clarified that. And it's funny how I was at an event last night, and I was telling some people about this, and the reaction I get most often is just sort of this head-scratching, like, wait a minute, I must be missing something because it can't be that good. This is too good to be true. And if you go to leadferret.com, set up your free account, and search it. Search it for leads you need, and you're going to see what you can get there. Once you see that list of contacts that you'd love to talk to, then the light's going to go on, and you're going to go, oh, my God, how do I get this list and reach out to these people as soon as possible? And, of course, like Forrest is saying, that's what we're trying to make easy by allowing you to download 500 of them into Sales Nexus every month.
All right, so we got a few minutes left for the top of the hour, and what we wanted to do was show you Sales Scripter. So I'll kind of take a step back because I'll assume that that maybe you don't, that there are some that don't know anything about Sales Scripter. So let me just log in. By the way, if you go to salesscripter.com, you can just sign up for an account at no cost. Our beta is 3 months at no cost, and so this is where you arrive at Sales Scripter, and basically there are these different stages that you go through. And what Sales Scripter is it's basically a web-based tool that will ask you a bunch of questions, and it'll extract key details about the products you sell, the company you represent, the value you offer, the pain you resolve, the prospects that you sell to. And those details are then plugged into a library of scripts, templates, and sales tools. You'll notice that the stages that you go through they align with the pillars of effective sales messaging: value, pain, qualifying credibility, interest, objections, and then there's a couple others. So let me just show you the output before we show you kind of how you get there. You heard me talk about value statements, and so here is a document that's produced by what's been filled in, and it's basically a repository of different combinations of the value that I offer for what I filled in, and these are all value statements. We help blah blah blah. So this isn't a tool to use to memorize. This is a tool to scan and then to grab 2 to 3 statements that kind of like sound pretty good, and then you use those in your sales messaging. You'll see some of these boxes highlight yellow. That means that this is text that's being produced by the scripter, and we can edit this in real time, and make those changes. But the question came up, well, what do I say when they say what's this in regards to? You can just about say any of these. This is what I say: respond with a value statement. So that's produced. Prospect pain points. Here are the pain points that are resolved by the products that I entered. Ideal prospect. Here's a profile of the prospects that I should sell to. Here are some environmental details. If I'm talking to a prospect and they don't have any of these, then I'm probably talking to the wrong person. I'm not going to have a productive meeting.
And Michael, real quick on that ideal prospect profile, basically that's all the detail that you need to go over to LeadFerret and get your list.
Yep. Size, region, industry, title. Yep. Hopefully the plan is to where there'll be a button in documents like this that say, give me a list of prospects, and you click that button, and it pulls directly from LeadFerret. So that's our hope. That will be there at some point. So qualifying questions, you heard me talk about that. You should probably be asking more questions than talking about yourself. Well, here's a whole list of questions that you can ask that's produced by the scripter. These are all produced by the answers that you provide. So all these are custom tailored to your situation.
How long do you figure it takes to go through entering the information initially?
Well, you can go through for one product probably, I don't know, 20, 25 minutes, 20 minutes for one product maybe.
Man, that's a lot of output you get for 25 minutes.
Some of the questions are somewhat thought-provoking, meaning there's questions that'll say, well, what business improvements do you help to make? And sometimes people have trouble getting their hands around that, but the majority of the questions are really straightforward, meaning what geographic area are you selling to? And so some of the questions you can just answer really quickly. Some of them you have to think about. Building interest points. So you heard me talk about interest, right? So that there are things you can say to build interest, and I mentioned you should talk about your products a little bit, but then connect value with pain, ROI statements, differentiation. Now we're going to start to get into the meat. So a lot of the data that I just showed you starts to get compiled into the script format. So here's a cold call script. Introductions, value statement, disqualify statement. I actually don't know if you need what we provide. Just got a couple questions. Here are some soft qualifying questions. Common pain points. Which one of those are you most concerned with? Building interest points, a close, name drop. So here's a full script produced. So that's a cold call script. We also provide you a first meeting script. So you might say, well, I don't do much phone stuff. I just go on meetings. Maybe you have an inbound, maybe you have a lead gen department. Well, here's a meeting script, some questions, pain points, some of the same stuff, but some hard qualifying questions. Voicemail, objections map. So you heard me talk about an objections map. Bam. Here you go. You don't even have to put, you answer the scripter.
Yeah.
You go through the scripter and you have an objections map.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I mean, that's what, obviously that got everybody's attention in the questions they asked here earlier in the webinar, just how to respond to these objections. And there it is, all laid out for you.
Voicemail script. You might this applies some logic to what you're saying on voicemails. So we have a value message, a pain message, building interest message, and a product-centric message. So just takes, leaving a voicemail isn't too complicated, but we take some of the thought out of there. You already have it written out. These are pretty cool. Email threads. So these were developed because of sort of how we use Sales Nexus, because with Sales Nexus, we will create email campaigns for that basically stitch 3 separate emails together and then schedule those emails to go out over a period of time, meaning we'll send one prospect 3 separate emails, and the emails will sort of feed off of one another. And what I do, I've kind of labeled those threads. So we have a pre-call email thread, a post-call email thread, and a post-voicemail thread. And this one goes out before you make your prospecting calls. So LeadFerret has actually enabled us to really actually use these, because before we were using LeadFerret, we didn't have email addresses. So we only could make phone calls first. But now that we have email addresses, we can send an email. And so the email basically, and these are sales-looking emails. These aren't marketing emails, but they basically say, hello, to introduce myself, I'm with Initech, and we help blah, blah, blah. And so the first message focuses on pain, I think. there's a description here. Yeah, I think it focuses on pain, face challenges. And by the way, when I use pain a lot in my training, but I never say pain with customers. I say challenges. And then there's an email 2 that goes out, and then an email 3, and so we'll send email number 1 to like 1,000 people through Sales Nexus, and then we'll do our prospecting on the opens and clicks of the email number 1, and then if we don't get a hold of the person, email number 2 will go out. If we get a hold of them, we'll cancel email number 2 and 3, and so that's a pre-call email thread, and then we have a post-call email thread that we use when people say, well, send us some information. So this goes out. We try to get around the just send me some information, but when we have to send it, thank you for taking the time to speak. As I mentioned, I'm with Initech. We help blah, blah, blah.
Michael, have you ever tried on that using the click tracking to sort of separate the people that really meant send me some information because I want to look at it versus the people that are just blowing you off?
Well, we definitely call the clicks first.
Yeah.
So is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's our priority. We call clicks first, and then we call opens next. And there's a post voicemail email as well, which is kind of similar, but emails stitched together. And that's kind of the meat. There's also a sales presentation. So you may have a presentation that you give, but the scripter will produce an outline for a sales presentation. And if you have nothing, this sure beats starting with a blank slide deck. If you have one, this may provide a slide or two that you want to add. It's a flow that might be different than what you're using today. If you're at all responsible for producing a blog, or you want to do some marketing emails like the content the 555 pain emails, this output produces topics for those emails or blog posts. So this is content marketing topics, and you can use these for blog posts, articles, or emails. But here are topics, and it basically just takes the answers provided through the scripter and plugs them with, basically it inserts them into different titles of topics. And I mean, you could tweak them, but it basically gives you an editorial calendar for a year, depending on how many you produce. But that's the bulk of what's produced. How you get there is you go through these tabs, and basically you're asked questions here, and you answer these, and you go through value, and based on the value that you provide, you get to the pain that you resolve, and based on the pain that you resolve, and then you get to the questions that you should ask. So it basically guides you. It's like a wizard that guides you to get all the key details into one place. Any questions, Craig, coming through?
Shoot, I'm sorry, Michael. I had myself muted there. There's several people were asking about getting the output to their salespeople.
Yeah, so these, let's see, let me click on an output. Each output item has a download link, so let me click on that, and it just comes to you in a PDF. So there you go. You have PDF. You could just send this out to your salespeople. Yeah, I mean, it's just that easy. If you wanted to kind of cut some of this out, I mean, it works just like any other PDF. You could copy and paste.
Yeah, so
get it as a PDF.
For the emails specifically, you would just copy and paste those into a Sales Nexus template.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest of it can be sent on as a PDF. You want to talk any more about future plans around that?
Around the
sharing with the rest of your team?
Yeah, in terms of the team. Well, so the roadmap for Sales Scripter, by the way, it's wide open today. You can enter up to 3 products. So if you come here, you can see product 1, product 2, product 3. It currently allows you to enter 3 products. The next version of Sales Scripter will allow you to enter more than 3 products. And by the way, it'll allow you to enter additional fields, like if these are pain points and you had more to add, you could add more pain points. So it'll be more flexible, allowing you to add maybe more stuff to one product or and less to another. So it'll be more flexible. That version will be launched towards the end of March, early April. But as part of that, that's going to be our Scripter Pro version. We will always have a light version that will allow you to go through the entire Scripter for one product at no cost. So if you like it, what you see, and you don't want to ever pay, use it today and get what you want. You'll always be able to use it for free for one product. And then when you want to add more products, you'll have to move to Scripter Pro, which we think will probably be around $99 for a 6-month subscription. So you pay once, and then you have access for 6 months. That Scripter Pro that should be ready in about a month or so. After that, we're going to finish development of Scripter Team, and Scripter Team will be more designed for organizational use, meaning right now, if you're a sales manager, you probably want to come through here, get the PDFs, and then send the PDFs to your team or change the PDFs, whatever. We will create it to where you can create profiles under, if you're a sales manager, you can create profiles underneath you to where your sales team can come into your Scripter account and have their own version with all the answers populated, and basically, so they don't have to answer the questions, and they can then go through and modify the scripts to maybe tweak them to their preference, and then there will be a script repository that it can then be the central place for your company where scripts are located, scripts are shared. There can be some sharing across team members to where they make their one member makes their modifications, they want to share that with another team member. So there'll be more collaboration, sharing, more team features, whereas today it's a very single user type of product.
Well, Michael, we've kind of run 10 minutes over here, but any closing thoughts you wanted to add before we wrap it up?
No, I mean, I could keep talking. The only thing I'd add is, we're motivated to help you all to be successful. So whether that's providing tools, training, content, whatever. We provide a tremendous amount of stuff for free. You can trial Sales Nexus, you can see Lead Ferret, you can get a lot of information for free. You'll be able to get Sales Scripter version for free. We're constantly doing trainings. But if you want more, if you like what we have to offer, we are, of course, for-profit businesses, so we would love to partner with you. But we'll continue to help you and to help you to grow your business and offer you value at no cost. And if there's an opportunity for us to partner in some way, we would love that opportunity.
Yeah, it's a great way to wrap it up. Actually, this is the final webinar for a little while. We're going to take a few weeks off, and as I mentioned earlier, you all get an email tomorrow with a link to the slides and the recording, the video, and also to the Scripter and Lead Ferret and so on. But at the outset, when we started this series back on January 16th, the idea was that we wanted to help businesses grow, that we all fundamentally believe that the world is a better place when businesses grow. Employees are better off, customers are better off, families are better off, communities are better off. And so we wanted to put all of this expertise that Michael and Forrest and Jim Wilkinson and other folks that have been involved have contributed to the webinars out there for you guys to benefit from and help you grow your business. A lot of the stuff that we've covered during these webinars, you don't need any of our products to do. You can go and do it on your own. In some of these webinars, we've pointed some of those methods out specifically. That said, if you have questions, if you're you want to take action with some of these ideas, but you're not quite clear on it, reach out to us. We are all here to help, and we'd be happy to get on the phone with you and brainstorm a little bit and see if we can't help you take the first step or two. And also, I should point out, Michael, you're available to help people walk through going through the scripter on a one-on-one basis, right? You charge for that, but I mean that is available, right?
We provide a scripter walkthrough service, so we'll go through it from beginning to end. So not only do we help you to figure out what the question is asking you if you're lost, but I've done a lot of script development. I'm a kind of a marketing guy as well, so we can help you to wordsmith the answers. So you go through it on your own, or you can have a scripter walkthrough. It's about a 2-hour engagement, and we kind of do it as like a coaching consulting engagement. So it's $200 a scripter walkthrough, but the output that you get, especially with the scripter being free, it's a pretty good value.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now, I've sat with marketing consultants and marketing firms who wanted to essentially provide me the same information but charge me several $1,000s. You know, that's a great value. Anyway, thank you to everybody, especially thank you, Forrest, for all your support with the webinars and all your input. We really appreciate it. I'm glad you've been part of all of them.
Absolutely, Craig. Thanks for having me. And I just want to close with what I always say. If you're in sales, if you do prospecting at all for part of your job, you'd be crazy not to use LeadFerret. It's totally free. You can create a totally free account. You only ever pay anything if you want to download the data, but you can access complete information for all currently 10 million records, soon to be jumping up to about 14 million records online for free. Just try it out. It's totally free. And again, I think anybody who's using it would tell you you'd be crazy not to be using it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You just got to go try it. And once you do, the light will go on. And as we mentioned before, you can start a free trial of SalesNexus and start downloading leads from LeadFerret and start sending out emails. And as Michael has pointed out, you can use the scripter for free for the time being until it goes live. And it's really a full-blown version. So take advantage of all this. Reach out to us if we can help in any way. And we'll be reaching out to you shortly. We're going to be resetting the entire series and doing it again, updating and enhancing it based on the feedback that we've gotten, and to have some other ideas to build on these themes here throughout